Hey, children, come on in, get comfortable.
Scott, I gotta change my lesson.
Our computer is not, oh wait, I can do it here.
Okay.
When were you scheduled?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
I have babies.
Gotcha.
I can do next week. I can do
We'll just move to next week.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and
Thursday, 10:15.
Thursday at 10:15.
Let me just make sure it changed. It did.
Can you yell that to me or not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do
Yes,
it.
sure. Just us two.
No, there better be more.
We're not good enough.
I know.
No comment.
Love you.
Yeah, it automatically sends it.
I know, I can't sit on that.
What's your wife said on that?
She's not here.
She isn't here? Oh, give me music.
Did you like the other song?
Yeah,
I did too.
much better than the ones before.
Oh, yeah, they were too.
I don't like it.
Doesn't
My
look like there's any
guitar
difference.
jumping, my guitar always beeps and I didn't like it.
Let's see if this.
So I told him, get a grip. Well, come in and where's Peter? He coming
I
home?
haven't seen him. I don't need to sit in a high chair. In a high chair? Look, I thought you were in a high
Not bad.
Well, is it there or? Doesn't matter.
There,
Say Joe. Oh, there was
no, I can see, no, I can see him.
Thank you very much. Oh, yeah.
Alright, so have
We'll
fun.
get out. We are, you're in.
Well, I'm good today.
Better by Tuesday.
What'd you say?
The sign, we are being recorded, the video will be available by Tuesday for you, you sign, so why don't we have antibiotic and
Play with her voice?
nasal spray? This is my last day on the antibiotic.
I saw Kathy, I didn't know you were on too, I didn't see you. I saved the spot.
It's okay.
He doesn't look.
Sure.
I know.
Takes good care of us. She does, thank you.
It's that mother who's on YouTube. On YouTube. I'm going to go to have YouTube.
Looks good, is this?
It's being very hard to read this. Especially.
I think why we're doing it. No,
I actually got that one. That was my house.
Yes. I didn't get that. Much easier. Well, we're being recorded video will be available. I don't have a computer.
Oh, baloney, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't want one. And that's bad. No.
Yes.
I do have my readers that I
So don't feel like that. Patio toes, Joe.
Yes, I know.
Five, I can
Patty
see.
was very good. She called me.
But I'm having trouble with, just to see.
maybe it's just a
I
big
don't know.
adjustment.
I'm hoping
Well,
that
Justin did.
today's like the final, so that they're.
When did Scott call me and say there was no?
Oh, okay.
Tell me exactly what.
The last time, very last
Maybe
time.
just an adjustment for your shot,
I
yeah.
Make sure you
I called you.
And all of a sudden
Your
I
phone
got
just
like.
rang, and I did not.
I saw you on my phone, and I said, was that
Oh, that's
recent
so
or just
annoying.
recently? I couldn't tell whether.
Well, I wanted to find out if
Recent.
there was a place.
There was no
And I had
message
the
on my
wrong
phone.
She had the wrong number, but I didn't have one.
And Patty, I didn't put it
I
on.
didn't have one.
My work from my
There's a
house.
message to call Marion.
Adjustment.
Says, she's from my place, she called in.
Oh, yes, Justin did give it to me, yes.
Okay, she asked me last night.
It's on our list of things to do.
Okay,
We're just trying to figure out how we're gonna do it and what we're gonna do.
okay.
And then come up with a kind of a concept.
Really?
That way we're approaching it with a finalized detail thing. This is what we're gonna do, this is what we're looking for.
Okay.
If you allow us to do this, it's no cost, so. All right, as you're coming in, please read that board. Very important. We are being recorded. You are currently on YouTube Live, so be careful what you say.
Get your sign out.
Be careful what you say, Bad Pat.
You say.
Oh, am I
She
gonna
can't say
talk?
it anyway.
Oh, brother, I got a lot to
Now's
say.
our chance.
This is your chance.
You don't want to.
Oh,
Yes.
I got a lot
So
to
if
say.
you're confused at the end of the class, hopefully by Tuesday of next week, it might actually be available as early as tomorrow. It might be available by tomorrow, but I can't guarantee it. A lot depends on how fast it uploads. Okay, a
Why
lot.
is it being done?
So the reason we're doing this is a couple-fold. We have some people who are down south during the winter, who don't want to lose their class material and want to be able to keep it. They've bought instruments or have the Lowry keyboards or organs down south. And that allows them to keep up with the curriculum and playing. It also adds another layer of benefit, and that is next Tuesday we will send out a link to everybody to this material, which means if you didn't understand something or you need to see it done again, you can go back and re-watch that video. Now we did this with, we started doing this a couple weeks ago, so they are available. If you miss a class, like let's say,
Yeah, wife here, yeah.
yeah, let's say you're coming into, next week. Let's say, God forbid, you wake up on Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning when your class is and you don't feel well. But you feel well enough you could sit down and watch the class and be involved that way, but you just don't want to contaminate people. Well, you could sit down at your computer and watch. You click the link, that's all you have to do. You click it out of the email, it opens up a screen and it automatically plays. You don't do nothing. You don't hit fast forward, you don't hit pause, it's live, you just watch it. Now, one of the nice things though is when you, if you do want to go back, like I said, on Tuesday when we send this link out, if you want to be able to go through and literally rewatch parts of it in just a section of it, oh, that was in the middle, you can move the little slider right to the middle and watch just that section. Okay, now so I make that announcement again that we're recording, and yes, I am starting right on the nose, so come on in. Right here, hon.
Are we recording right now?
Yes, we are. We are recording. So we are recording this, and I do have to keep on saying that for a while until everybody's heard it. Peg already knows because I told her out in the other room.
Oh, all right.
We are starting on time. Now, what's going to happen, the end of class, I'm not going to pause. I'm going to grab my iPad. That, I got to remember the keyboard thing. And I am out the door. I have to go pick up my wife. We're on our way to watch my son play baseball this weekend. Because he made the travel team, which is awesome. So, going to go watch him pitch this weekend. So looking forward to that. So, not the drive.
Where?
In South Carolina. It is what it is. So, thank God we have a lot of friends. You behave, young lady.
I'm behaving.
All right, so what's going to happen is, like I said, I'm going to end up locking that front door. You will not be able to exit through the front door. You will exit out this door, the emergency exit door. Some of you've done this before. Whoever is the last person, take your time. If you guys want to hang out for 2 hours, just don't drink all my beer.
I'm
It's very expensive beer.
I'm staying.
But I'm leaving, so you'll be.
There's no Coors Light in there, hon.
I don't care.
There's no Coors Light.
I don't care.
Well, you're not driving, you can, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm
So,
gonna have
but-
to high pitch.
But again, my point is, don't feel like you have to rush out of here. Take your time today. Enjoy each other's company. I just do have to hit the road to hit everything on schedule. I've got to be flying.
You don't hit the road too hard.
Well, hopefully I don't hit the road at all.
You didn't say anything.
That'd be the real
Right.
rule. Because otherwise it hurt. All right. So again, those of you who just walked in, we are being recorded. Just need you to be aware of that. So behave, Albert. All right. So last week we did the song "She's Got You." This week we figured since today is Valentine's Day. Oh, some classes did crazy. Some people did crazy. Some people did "She's Got You." That's right. But enough of the material was cohesive between all the classes. Now, all right. So we figured since today is Valentine's Day, first of all, we'd like to wish you a happy Valentine's Day. Hope you have a great day today. I'll try to behave today. Nah, it's no fun.
Right.
But we figured it'd be good to do a love song. But we wanted to do a love song that either we haven't done in class, or if we had, it was like 10 years ago. We wanted to do a song that was that we haven't done, or was something that was performed by different artists throughout different generations. All right. And the song we're going to do was originally in 1967, but then had a number of versions throughout each decade. And one of the most recent versions is my favorite, and that is Diana Krall's version of the song. I don't know if y'all know who Diana Krall is. Shame on you. How many people know who Diana Krall is? Anybody? Anyone? Yeah.
Company, aren't we?
Unfortunately, I don't have the other speaker, so I'm gonna have to run. Yeah. It's a little easier.
Maybe because he's gonna.
What?
We need one more.
Sure. Forget me.
I don't know if I can't access my computer to do the enlargement for you.
Okay,
So
well, we'll
next
just
week,
do
ask me
this.
for a copy of it, okay? Our computer's doing an update, unfortunately. You remember this one? Me too.
I know, without a table, and use a lap.
There is a chord that you all will be able to eliminate if you don't want to deal with it. Notice how relaxing this song is? Alright? I know, it's a little, well, it's also a very soft song anyway, so even if we were playing it through the speaker, it's not a dynamically loud piece of music, okay? Alright, now, So a couple things. We're gonna start off right off the bat with the registration. Now, the advantages in this class is everybody plays on an A series of instruments. Some of you might have an S series, but I think everybody that's here today has A series. Oh no, there's one S series. So the good news is your button pushes are identical on your instrument, so I don't have to go on yours. You do think that you just do what I write down. All right. There's only one step that some of you won't be able to do. Okay. All right. The first registration is going to be touch Bossa Nova, which of course Bossa Nova will be found in your Latin button, and our tempo will be 93. Now, Bossa Nova is an interesting style that came around in the mid to late 19, actually, was it the late 1950s into the 60s? And became very popular. Even singers like Frank Sinatra were releasing recordings. In fact, one of the best examples of a Bossa Nova that Sinatra did was Fly Me to the Moon. He does it as a Bossa Nova. But Bossa Nova in Latin music is to the samba, which is very fast, lively, hyper, kind of runs, is like what cool jazz of the 1960s was to bebop, so like Miles Davis compared to Dizzy Gillespie, where Dizzy Gillespie playing a lot of notes really fast, really complicated progressions of chords and all that kind of stuff. Miles Davis would go, and he'd just say these little statements. And some people say it's because he was so stoned that while he was making those statements, he forgot where he was going. He goes, "Oh, that'd be good." So,
Yeah, I know.
there's truth in that. All right. So Bossa Nova. So everybody has this, so we're good. No issues here. The Bossa Nova is just nice, relaxed rhythm style. Now, how did we determine the tempo of 92, 93? Well, the way we got there was we were listening to the recording and we used our tap tempo feature. Those of you who have a touch bar can do this. You can go in and edit your touch bar to do tap tempo. On the E series, I just tap the tap tempo button. And as I'm listening, I just tap how fast I'm hearing the beat. All right? What you're going to find out is that singers do not stay in tempo. They speed up, they slow down, they're annoying. Singers need to learn to stay in time. It would be great, but they don't. But 93 beats per minute is what it should be. Okay? Really hard so far, right? Oh, this is the hardest registration we've ever done. Our second, still on this, you touch number 2. Now, when you touch number 2, this is an optional step everybody can do. We're going to touch the 8-foot flute off in the lower section. Now, we had a reference to the lower section last week's classes where we said in the lower section turn off something. And I mentioned to most of the classes that your organ doesn't always have something that is on the instruments we're using in the classroom. So what happens is, Rich called me on Tuesday, and he goes, by the way, the registration, when I hit rhythm presets on and I hit that number, 8 and 4-foot flute didn't come on. So if I touch it, it turns it on. And as we discussed in the Wednesday classes, because he pointed it out to us, we knew to tell you if it's not on, don't turn it on. We want it off. I don't like the whistly sound of the flutes in the left hand, unless I'm playing an organ arrangement, which we're not. Okay? All right? So touch the 8-foot flute off. Memorize that to number 1. Second registration. I told you
only 4 registrations.
there's 5. You'll see five sets. Go ahead.
Lower section though, where is it?
Lower section
Lower
is,
section.
that's gonna be the lower tabs over here.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's an 8-foot flute right
Okay.
there. We just turned that off.
That's what I did.
All right, the second registration, oh, buckle up. This is the hard one. Touch number 8. Done. Memorize that to 2. Third registration. Touch number 6. Memorize that to 3. I'm not joking, this is the easiest registration we've ever taught.
I think so.
All right. The fourth registration is touch number 6, which will turn it off, and that's key there. Okay. So the touch number 6, which turns it off. So when if I have a number that's lit, if I turn it off, we're now on 0. All right, we used to say rhythm preset 0 or vintage 0. Well, they're the same thing. All right, we're just doing the button pushes. That gets memorized. And now right underneath where you wrote this, you have to add this, asterisk, an M, A, 4, white, black, memorize.
Those are the ones.
Yep. Now, the 5th step is the one that if you play in a holiday classic, premiere, or a sensation or performer, you will not be able to do, and that is touch fade out. And memorize that to number 5. You're perfect. Yep. You're right on point. Right on point today, Pat.
Would you repeat that, please?
I'll tell you, I've always been on point, you just didn't recognize it.
I'm being recorded. No. I meant what I was going to say.
Would you repeat that, please?
Touch fade out
Oh,
and memorize it to number 5.
I thought you said number 8.
Oh, no, 5. Now, those of you who do have this fade out feature, once you touch fade out, you need to memorize quickly. You need to go memorize A, 5, white, black, memorize. You can't dawdle because it's going to fade out and turn off. Or actually fade in because we're not actually don't have a rhythm going. Okay? Kind of neat. All right. That's the entire registration. Piece of cake. That was your birthday present.
Oh, thank you.
Don't ask for anything else. All right? Yeah, come back. I got a couple. You'll get your Christmas present soon too. All right, now I'm going to actually play this. I'm going to go a little bit further in this though. There's something I'm going to do that I think is kind of cool that they did in the 60s. Very often, artists realized if you wanted to get your music played on the radio, you wanted to make it easy on the DJs. Because the worst thing a DJ could have is silent air. They needed to have time filled with music or them talking or speaking between records, right? So this was kind of a very important element in a DJ's job. So if you make it easy on a DJ to start your song, your piece of music, and you make it obvious when it's ending, it makes it easy for the DJ to start bringing up the next piece of music. So a lot of artists decided that it was a good idea to fade into a song and fade out. And by doing that, it made it easy so the DJ didn't add cuts in your music. And to fade it out, they played your entire piece, they let it fade out, and they would fade in the next song. Kind of a neat little trick. But to do that, I'm just going to go to number 1, prepare to play. Let me get my eyes on. All right. I hit A1, and I just touch my fade feature, and right away it's going to start fading in. So it'll give this kind of an effect. Now, isn't that kind of cool how, don't you feel mellowed out right now? Don't you feel like you just took a chill pill? That's what I love about this kind of song. Now, those of you who are thinking, well, why don't you play those songs all the time and it'll relax you a little bit? Because I don't like to be relaxed. No. But no, it really does. This song, this piece of music does just put you in that nice frame of mind, nice relaxed frame of mind. So thought this would be a good one for you this week. All right, so now if we have time, I'm going to come back to the fingering. I want to just make a couple points, tie into what we talked about last week, a couple details. All right, so let's turn over to the back where it says musical information. In most of your classes last week, and I think we even did this in the Tuesday 11:45 class, we talked about how the song's musical forms were AADA, and that bridge, that middle section, the bridge which connects the A section back to the A section, contains what's called a modulation. All right, it's a modulation written into the music. All right. And we said, well, you know, a lot of songs have bridges, and it's a good idea to modulate coming out of them also, which we did. And we did that as an arranger, right? But not all songs make this easy on us, adding modulations, if you will. But this song starts in D minor, and ends in F major. Now I wrote it like a chord because most of us think chord-wise, not key-wise, right? So the key of D minor, and the key of F are actually an interesting key. So the song starts here and ends here. So that means the song's going to modulate on its own. And this is where modulation can get kind of funny or interesting, if you will. And that is, these two keys have something very close to each other. They have a very close relationship between D minor and F. And actually, that was a key way to put that. These are what they call relative keys. D minor is the relative minor to F major. F major is the relative major to D minor. So this goes back and forth both directions. What this really means is something we haven't been talking about in your classes very much, and that is key signatures. You might have noticed the last couple of songs, at the beginning of the song, we had in front of the, between the treble clef and our time signature, there were accidentals like this. Now, unfortunately, when we converted this from standard notation to the easy play notation with the names of the notes in it, it didn't transfer properly this time. We forgot to add it back in. So what I need you to do is, everybody, if you kind of just turn to the beginning of the song, you don't need to draw all that if you don't want to. At the very beginning of the song, you see how you have your treble clef and then the time signature? I want you to, on the middle line that's up 1, 2, 3 or down 1, 2, 3, add a little flat symbol right on that middle line, in between the 4/4 and the time signature. Yep. I would have preferred it before it, but that, if you did, where you did it's
What does
fine.
he want
We
us
can
to
do it
do?
both ways, don't matter.
Between, right here.
Yeah, right there. Yep, you got it. Right.
But what
So-
am I supposed to put there?
A little flat symbol.
Oh, flat.
Okay. Now, those of you who played before, you got it? Everybody got it? Yep. Okay. Those of you who played before, played instruments before you came to us, already know key signatures, and you go, so what's the big deal? You got to remember, how many people never took a music lesson before they came here, never played an instrument before they came to the store? All right, so that's about 6 people, 7 people in the classroom. It means they've never been introduced to key signatures. So we do have to introduce it. What a key signature tells me to do is it's telling me that anywhere in the song, if you run into any B, it's not a B, it's B flat. And it can be that B, it could be this B, it could be this B. It could be the one way up high or the one way down low. All right? The only way it would not be a B is if there was this symbol in front of it called the natural sign. And we've been introducing that to you gradually, recently. All right? So, and again, if you've played before, this isn't new. For those of you who this is new, this is why that symbol is so important. All right? Now, all right, let's go back to the back. I just wanted to, so you understood what keys means, what we mean by keys and key signatures. All right? Now, the reason D minor and F major are relative keys is if we take F major goes F, G, A. Notice I put the flat symbol in front of the B. Why do I put it in front of the B? It's a melody note. The flat comes in before the note it changes, just like in your melody. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. That's the key of F. Okay? Piece of cake. What we're saying for relative keys is D minor and F major both share that same key signature of that one flat, the B flat. So the only difference is D minor wants to start on D, and it's the same notes, just in a starting and ending different. All right. Now, so D minor and B or F major both have one flat. They play the B flat, and these are again called relative. This is actually D minor, but it's actually what they call natural minor. Natural minor means you're not changing any of the notes from the original key signature. So you leave it natural. You can also call it Aeolian if you want to really confuse yourself. You can call it Aeolian mode. But if we do this, notice that I love that sound. Now, when we play that melodic minor, a lot of us hear that as, you know, like you're in the Middle East. All right, and that's why you hear it that way. We were trained by the movies to hear it that way. You go to the middle, that's not what their music's going to sound like. All right, but Hollywood, it's Hollywood tricking us a little bit. Now, and then the other one's called what they call, did I say melodic already? Yes, harmonic minor. So it goes up one way, comes down a different way. Do you need to know any of that? And the simplest way to know if we're in natural minor is if you're in D minor. If you're in D minor and you see a C sharp, if you see a sharp when you're in a minor that has a flat, that's automatically a red flag that you are in either harmonic or melodic minor. But again, not going to make you play better, so who cares? Okay? All right. Now, last week's song, I already kind of touched on this. We're still in that same section. I briefly mentioned this, and by briefly I mean so briefly. I mentioned that last week's song was A, B, A, C. And we knew that the B section was a bridge, and that C section was a tag or a reprise, depending on which song you were doing. If you were doing Crazy, I believe it was a reprise, and if you're doing She's Got You, it was a tag. All right? But in this week's song, the 60s, a lot of the late 60s and 70s music, the reason people who grew up and were at that impressionable age of 12 to 24, you know, when you started, you girls, or well, we won't get sex specific, but when you either became, when you became aware of the other sex or the sex you were interested in, so if you became aware of boys or girls, at that age where you started to get excited about that, around 12, does not mean you were sexual. It just means you started to go, oh, girls are cute, or boys, whichever your preference. All right, or maybe, I don't know. There. Leave the joke alone. All right, so all the way up until about when you start having children. And or you're finishing up college and you get back to work and you're now working your tail off. You're too tired to go out to the clubs at 2:30 in the morning and listen to new music. You just want to go home and sleep. All right. So if you were 26 in 1968, you're probably not into the music of the late 60s and 70s. But if you were 14, this music speaks to you differently and you're used to it. All right, but up to that point, most music was AABA form or ABAB form or something very simple, simplistic formatting. So in a very simple form. But the 60s and 70s said, yeah, forget that. We don't want to say the same thing a lot over and over again. We want to say something new each time. And this song is a perfect example of this. The musical form on this, it goes and makes the first phrase and says this. All right, and that's A. Then it goes to say this. And you might think, well, that's starting just the same, but right away, it goes and does its own thing. So because that's a new phrase, it goes to B. Then it goes and says, well, I don't want to repeat either of those ideas. So that's a completely new idea, unrelated to any of the other ideas. So it's A, B, C. Then the song repeats itself, so guess what? It goes A, B, C. And then at that same point, when you go to the second ending, it goes... which is confusing, because the D section in this song is a complete phrase. It's a complete phrase, and it has both a reprise and a tag. It's kind of interesting. It kind of repeats the same thing. That part where it goes, that's a repeat of something from before. It repeats itself again, then it has a whole different idea, which was nothing related to anything else in the song. Kind of a weird thing. All right. So now, so a couple of things. When I have a musical form ABC, if there was not a repeat of the main song, there is nowhere in the song I can modulate. All right? When it repeats the entire song, here, if I wanted to add a modulation, we could. I didn't. I opted not to this week. And part of it is because very often when you have A, B, C, and it goes back to A, it's going to be an awkward shift on the ear. So if I come out of this, oh, sorry. I got to do that again. I apologize. Notice it didn't feel good? That modulation didn't work for our ear. The only way I could make it work is I have to add a chord. I would have to add a chord. I'd have to go. And even then, it's still not happy to our ear, is it? By the way, another very famous song that uses this almost the same format is the Star Spangled Banner. It goes A, A, B, C. That's one of the reasons it's hard to perform. It's not repeating the same melodic theme over and over again, which means people who are singing it are worried about the melody and getting it right. And you think, oh, well, I'm American. I know this song. Everybody knows this song. Until you're up in front of 10 million people performing it. Then all of a sudden, you don't remember Squad Boosh. All right. I've watched some of the greatest singers of all time get up and blow it with the national anthem. That is one song that if I were a singer, I would never want to perform. One of my favorite versions of that, though, was the trumpet player, the Cuban trumpet player, and Arturo Sandoval. He does a version of it that just, fills the whole stadium with just a trumpet. It's amazing. Google it or YouTube it. All right, now, all right, so just kind of a little music theory stuff that we wanted you to know. The next part, we're going to go right into the playing technique, which is actually going to tie us right into the pro tip. Our technique is part of the pro tip also. So this all kind of ties right in together. So where it says technique, we're going to add this. Making complex chord progressions easier. I ran out of room, sorry. All right, making complex chord progressions easier. Doesn't that sound like it would be a great idea? Now, those of you who started within, let's say, 4 or 5 years, have already reaped the benefits of this approach. You just don't know it. Those of you who've been around longer than that, you have also been instructed on this many, 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 many times. And you should be doing it every morning when you're doing your warm-ups. It's the left-hand warm-up. And just briefly, I'm going to say, and that left-hand warm-up, get to work on it. There's more coming. Left hand and right hand. Make sure you're working on it, no matter which stage you are on that. Those of you who only have the front page, there is a whole back page already. Those of you who already have the front and back page, there's a whole nother page coming. Evil. All right. So we want to make playing our complex chord progressions as easy as possible. And one of the easiest ways, one of the best ways to make it easy is to step or walk our chords. And our left-hand warm-up does that. And we talked about going C, adding the B flat to make C7. Instead of just going clunk, that's not as interesting as going. It adds another layer of movement, and more movement and harmony makes it more exciting to the listener, especially when we play a slow song. So, we'll come back to that left-hand chord warm-up here in a minute. All right? So, the trick to this is only lift. Woo! I need to erase the word easier. I need room. Only lift the finger or note or notes that are different from one chord to the next. Now, way back in level 1, or level 2, week 1, we said we're going to play C chord, G, and C. The only reason we taught C chord that way was to teach you how to play two-finger chords without adding something new that week. All right, that was it. There was no other benefit to it. All right, it made you get used to moving two fingers. That way, in week 4, when we added G minor, you were already used to playing two-finger chords. You'd already practiced moving two fingers instead of one in your left hand. All right, but in that level, we said to play G and C. The problem was when you had a G chord next, you lifted off and it didn't change. All right, so you had to lift off and re-strike the chord. That's not going to happen in advanced chords because we're playing multiple fingers all the time. All right, and what I mean is our example in our music this week is we have an A minor chord that goes to an A minor 7, that goes to a G minor, that goes to a G minor 6, that goes to an A7. Now, some of you would play this chord progression like this. You'd go A minor, then you'd lift off and you'd go G, A, C for A minor 7, then you'd lift off, go G and B flat, then you'd lift off, go G, B flat, D, and E. Then you'd lift off and go G and A. And I'm telling you that's not the best way to do it for a couple reasons. Number one, I said so. Number two, I said so. Number three, yes, I said so. No, that is true. But the reason we don't want to lift off is if we were playing a song, which might be coming up shortly, where there's no rhythm and we don't have the memory feature on, so when you let go of a chord, it holds it. If I have that memory feature off and I lift off, it makes your left hand choppy. We don't want that, okay? And we have a song where we're going to be playing where we want to be able to lift off and have the left hand chord stop without doing a no chord, because it makes it sound horrible when you're not using rhythm. So we want to be able to lift off the chord, have it stop, and the melody continue on, then the harmony come back in. So the trick here is if we always hold the notes that are shared from one chord to the next, it makes it smoother. So for example, A minor 7, well guess what? The two notes that are in A minor are also part of A minor 7, so why would you lift them? A minor, add the G. The next chord is G minor. Now watch this. I take off the notes that aren't in G minor, and I add the note that is. The next chord is G minor 6. Guess what chord is already part of G minor 6? G minor. I'm already playing G minor. I just add D and E. And then the next chord is A7, which is G and A. All right, don't worry, we're going to diagram this. Yes, G minor 6 is a 4-finger chord. Yep. And thank you for asking, because that's exactly where this is going. We're going to make this chord, a 4-finger chord, easy to play by walking and stepping our way into it. And if you practice this concept with this song, which is not a super hard song, when we do play something that's a little more intricate, like a Josh Groban piece, where you have to be all over the place melodically and harmonically, you can make those easier on yourself. And we want it to be easy, because easy is, well, that sounds wrong. So I might edit that part of the video out. If you re-listen to that, it doesn't come out right. So A minor, A and C. A minor 7, we're just going to hold this down and add the G to it. Now, here's the secret. Once that G is on, that G is going to stay on the entire time. A minor 7 is G, A, C. G minor is G and B flat. G minor 6 is G, B flat, D, and E. A7 is G and A. Not W, G, and A. I think that's a radio station out there.
Yeah.
I think. I wouldn't know because I think it's country and.
Yep, it is.
Yes, Mom, I still pick on the country music stations. All right.
Would you repeat G minor 6?
No, don't write anything I don't put on the board. We're gonna add everything we're gonna add everything here in a minute. So we play A and C, we add the G to it, right? Now, when I go from G to G, or A minor 7 to G minor, I lift off any notes that aren't part of G minor, so I get rid of the A and C at this point, and I'm going to add the B flat to it. All right? So I go from A minor 7, I lift off everything that's not part of the next chord, Now, so I add B flat to it. I continue to hold all the notes that are part of this chord that are already on. Well, G and B flat are already on. So to play this more advanced chord, I add D and E. So I just made you play a 4-finger chord by playing 2 fingers. That's it. I went A minor 7, lifted off, played G and B flat, added D and E, and we got to that advanced chord. Now that is a much more advanced chord than it looks like. G minor 6, you might look at it like, well, it's almost like G minor 7. What's the big deal? It is in jazz pop harmony. It's called G minor 6. In classical harmony, it is not called that. It's called, it actually would be called an E minor 7 flat 5 in first inversion. All right. Now that sounds like a lot of words, but I want to show you this real quick. So if I play G, B flat, D, and E, if I take this E that's here and move it down low, watch what the chord does. It became E minor 7 flat 5, but guess what you didn't hear? They sound the same, don't they? The only thing that changes is what the bass player does. And I'll be honest with you, you're not going to hear that when rhythm's playing. It's not going to stand out in your ear. All right, so that's why we can cheat a little bit. Okay, so A and C, we add the G. We get rid of the A and C. So if you wanted to, you could go. Oh, actually, that would be here. So you would subtract A and C. All right, but I think that gets confusing for most people. So you just get rid of the notes. You don't play. I didn't want you to write it. I was showing you that it makes it confusing if you write it up. So A and C are not part of this chord, so we just get rid of them. Okay. All right. Now, the pro tip kind of goes to this. And it just reiterates it. It's step or walk the chords. All right? If you step or walk the chords, we simplify the most complex chord progressions. By stepping and walking the chords, we can make the most complex chord progressions easy to play. Watch this chord progression up on the wall. I like to play this song this time of year because, well, it's Valentine's Day. Watch how hard this is. But watch the chords. Did you see all those chords? Every single one of those chord changes was one note different than the other notes being held. One note. One note made all that difference. It went. One finger walking. But you go, well, oh, that's crazy. He's playing all these advanced chords. Well, guess what? That's why. There's nothing hard about that. That's actually easier than having chord progressions that are simplified or in this easier version, because then my next chord is always one note away. All right. All right. And that's why sometimes you see me playing along and some weird things happen across the screen. Two things have happened. Either my ear has said, hey, you know what would sound good? Or I go, oh, I can just step to here to get this. All right. So I really don't think that hard. That's on tape. My wife will play. She's going to post that one on. Now, let's turn to the song for a moment. We're right on time. We're doing good. It's going to be tight. I got to make it to my pharmacy and get my wife. How fast can that car? I'm in a Chevy Impala. I think that car can do 0 to 100 in What?
Oh, my
Your
God.
wife is a
5 seconds.
prescription?
Well, she is a
The way
prescription.
you said that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's-
She is my
it's all
prescription.
saved at my
She
life,
does
so-
fix what ails me, but we're gonna stop right there. Now, all right, so with the fingering on this, I just wanna point out that there are a couple times where it's obvious that we have a rest, okay? And we can break the phrase, but if you turn to page 2 of the song, line 1, you'll see that it goes to the that D with 1, and then it crosses to C with 3. Now we have to make it up to that G with our index finger, and you might go, my index finger won't make that. Well, last week when we talked about fingering technique 301, we mentioned that there was a new rule 6 that said use your rest to allow yourself to lift off the keys and start with a new hand position. And we also talked about adding breath marks, right? And we also talked about those breath marks are rest, they're a short little rest, so you can start new. Well, look at the lyrics there. You'll notice the lyrics say, I can hardly wait to hold you, and there's a comma. Well, a comma in speech usually means a breath. So you could add a little breath mark right there, or a little single break there, to allow yourself to break your hand position, come off the keys, and start new, like this. I just realized that when it goes back to the beginning, yeah. When it goes back to the beginning, it shouldn't drop down to that low D, it should be an A. But don't worry about it, and we're not gonna change it. Wait.
There's Justin.
All right. No, it's my sister, so she usually doesn't message. Not during the day. All right, so there's your homework. We covered the fingering, the chords. Now remember, those of you who are in, especially that Tuesday 11:45 class, remember, you don't have to feel like you need to play all these advanced chords. You can eliminate them. You'll notice that the chord before it shares the same name. There's a reason. So keep that in mind. Going back to this left-hand warm-up at the very front of your book, I just want to say this quickly. And then, like I said, I'm going to lock the front door. This